Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for another edition of the IRENA Insights webinar series. My name is Karan Kocher, and I'm joining from IRENA's Innovation and Technology Center in Bonn, Germany. For those who are joining us for the first time, I would like to introduce IRENA and our webinar series. IRENA is an intergovernmental organization with 170 member countries and another 14 countries in their accession process. We support countries in the transition to a sustainable energy future and serve as the principal platform for international cooperation, a center of excellence, and a repository of policy, technology, resource, and financial knowledge on renewable energy. And because our analytical work and our engagement with the members generates a lot of valuable insights, we are constantly looking for more ways to share those insights with you. And that is why we launched this webinar series. We have organized over 60 webinars on various topics, and you can check them all on our IRENA events website. The link to that will be in the presentation slides. We understand that there are many longer deep dive webinars out there, but our aim is to keep these webinars short and sweet, lasting approximately 30 minutes. While we cannot cover everything in this time frame, we hope to give you enough information, but more than that, the sources of more in-depth information to help you explore the topic further. Next slide, please. Today, in the next 30 minutes, we will hear from Jaydev Davle, who will share insights from one of IRENA's reports, a quality infrastructure roadmap for green hydrogen. Next slide. But before I hand over the microphone to him, a few housekeeping items. The webinar will be recorded and posted on the IRENA events page. You are by default on mute, but we would encourage you to use the Q&A or the chat function to ask any questions. And without any further ado, let me welcome Jaydev to our IRENA Insights webinar series. The floor is yours, Jaydev.
Hi, thanks, Karan, and a very good afternoon to all the participants today. And as mentioned by Karan, the objective of my presentation is to provide a few highlights from our recent report that we launched in November 2024, entitled "A Quality Infrastructure Roadmap for Green Hydrogen." So I'll start my presentation by first taking stock of the energy transition, and I would like to sort of highlight some key points from some of our recent reports on this topic. So in 2023, it was a record year for renewables with 473 gigawatts of additional capacity added in that year, and it brought the cumulative capacity to 3.8 terawatts with regards to renewable energy, which is great. However, it's clear from our analysis that if we want to meet the 1.5 degree scenario, a lot more developments have to happen in terms of renewable energy deployment. And at the current pace, it would reach about 9.7 terawatts by 2030. And our analysis says that to keep in line with the 1.5 degree scenario, we would require about 11.2 terawatts of renewable energy capacity by 2030 to achieve this goal. So there is a 1.5 terawatt gap that has to be sort of fulfilled, and that's equivalent to the cumulative capacities of Africa, Central America, Europe, North America, and the Oceania region. So a lot of work has to be done, but I think with concerted actions, it is still possible to achieve this goal, hopefully. And to sort of talk about what we envision moving forward, essentially the key message that I would like to highlight from our analysis is that we do view that electrification of end-use sectors is going to be a very key enabler to support the rapid decarbonization of various industries globally, and you can see this on the infographic on the right-hand side, where we try to sort of model what we envision the energy system to be in 2050. And what's notable also is that we do see a role for hydrogen to also be involved in this energy mix, and we do envision that about 14% of the global energy supply and demand will be covered through hydrogen in the form of either direct use in terms of using it directly, or converting it into derivatives, which can then be used as input materials for other sectors. So the hydrogen production is ongoing, but there still needs to be more work in this area for it to become an effective contributor to the energy transition. So now moving on to the topic, essentially our report focuses on quality infrastructure requirements for green hydrogen. Now, what is green hydrogen? Basically, in a nutshell, green hydrogen is hydrogen that is produced through water electrolysis that is powered by a renewable source of energy or electricity. And the value chain for this green hydrogen value chain can be seen on the top part of the infographic. So you have renewable sources of energy that provides electricity to an electrolysis plant, and then through the electrolysis process, hydrogen and water is split into hydrogen and oxygen, and the hydrogen is then sort of, let's say, extracted and then transported either for end-use applications or converted into derivatives such as ammonia and methanol that can then be used by other industries for the services that they provide. Now, what we notice is that there's a lot of emphasis on the technological aspects of green hydrogen, and sometimes what's often overlooked is the aspect of quality infrastructure. And in this infographic, it's the bottom two blocks that you see in this infographic. So what is quality infrastructure? So by definition, quality infrastructure is a national system of organizations, policies, legal frameworks, and practices to ensure quality and safety of products and services. So these tools essentially allow for various products and services to be safe and sustainable. And this is extremely important in the regard for hydrogen, because hydrogen by its very nature is an explosive energy carrier. And if the right safety parameters are not in place, it can lead to hazards. Therefore, it's really important that a robust quality infrastructure ecosystem is in place. What are the key pillars of quality infrastructure? There is essentially our metrology, standardization, accreditation, and conformity assessments. And in conformity assessments, you have testing, certification, and inspection. What is the value that's added by quality infrastructure? It basically creates technical basis for the development of any sector. And in our analysis, we focus on green hydrogen, and to help reduce any hazardous risks, and also promote financial and reputational confidence for players that wish to sort of be engaged in the green hydrogen space. And hopefully with the robust implementation of a complete quality infrastructure ecosystem, there's a confidence to sort of help green hydrogen play a role in promoting the sustainability avenues of the energy transition. And we do envision that this energy carrier will be a crucial role with regards to achieving energy goals, but it's important that this quality infrastructure be in place. I just want to define a few of these terms so that we all have a common understanding of what we mean by these various pillars of quality infrastructure. So the first, I think that is most communicated when we talk about quality infrastructure is a standard. And essentially, a standard is a document that is developed by consensus and approved by a recognized body, which provides either best practices or guidelines for certain activities or technologies, ensuring that it sort of performs in the most optimal way. And this is usually done through various organizations such as ISO and IEC, which are the international organizations that sort of work to provide standards at the global level. But then you also have national standard bodies that try to develop standards for the local context, but then also taking inspiration or reference to the international standards. Secondly is metrology, and in a nutshell, metrology refers to the science of measurement and embraces both experimental and theoretical determinations to ensure that the level of uncertainty is as minimal with regards to either a scientific discipline or technology. So metrology is a key pillar that informs the other aspects of quality infrastructure. Testing by the name itself basically implies determining the characteristics of a product or service with in comparison to a reference standard or protocol, so to ensure that they're compliant. Certification, essentially, in simple language, is the formal verification of a product or service or a management system of an organization or service, or it can also apply to the competence of a person who's undertaking a particular activity, such as testing or inspection in line with a particular standard, for example. And then finally, you have accreditation, which is basically the process where there's an independent confirmation of the technical competence of an individual or organization that is delivering a service. So all these pillars are interacting with one another to ensure that services or products are safe and sustainable. And this is something that we're trying to communicate in our report, because usually when we talk about quality infrastructure, there's a premium usually on standards and certification. That's normally what you see in the discourse. But we also want to raise awareness that there are other pillars in quality infrastructure that also have to be developed to ensure that a robust system is in place to ensure the quality and safety of products. So very quickly, I just wanted to also communicate that this roadmap that we've developed is as a result of a project that we implemented between April 2022 and November 2024 with support from the German Metrology Institute, PTB, as well as with financial support from BMZ. And the objective of this project was essentially to raise awareness of the importance of quality infrastructure for green hydrogen. And there were two deliverables from this project. The first was the actual development of a roadmap for quality infrastructure, which I'll be talking about shortly, and then also applying that roadmap approach to a particular to a pilot case study. And we applied this roadmap approach in the context of Tunisia, because during the implementation of this project, Tunisia was in the process of also developing their hydrogen strategy. So we thought it would be an opportune moment to also try to see to reflect quality infrastructure within their own strategic ambitions for green hydrogen development at the national level. So this is the roadmap in a nutshell. There are basically 5 steps that we have. So the first step for when we talk about this roadmap is to assess the green hydrogen potential in a given national context. The second step is then to develop a strategy based on the assessment of the green hydrogen potential in a national context. The third step would then also to be conduct a QI assessment on what services of quality infrastructure are available. The fourth step is to also then undertake an analysis on the supply and demand with regards to quality infrastructure services that may arise in the future. And then taking cognizance of the results from the first 4 steps, it's also important then to develop an action plan that provides guidance on how how gaps can be addressed to ensure that a robust quality infrastructure ecosystem is in place. And now I'll very briefly try to go in a bit more depth with regards to these steps, but then also try to, where applicable, also demonstrate its connection to the Tunisia case study that we also developed as part of this project. So with regards to the potential for green hydrogen, when we talk about the first step, it's important that many facets are explored in this stage. So the first one facet to be considered is also the availability of renewable energy technologies and how available those services are. Looking at where green hydrogen can be applied from a end use point of view, and then also doing an analysis on the supply chain all the way from the downstream activities all the way to the upstream activities. So all those facets have to be considered in this analysis to ensure that there's a full budget perspective on what role green hydrogen will be playing in a particular national context, and then also trying to understand what markets can be developed as a result of pursuing the sectoral development. So this is the first step that we recommend any country that's looking to start green hydrogen activities do, is sort of map out what the potential is in a particular national context. The second step would then be, based on the analysis, is to develop a strategy, and there are various aspects to include in a strategic document. Those range from having ambitious targets, fostering collaboration, looking at how green hydrogen can potentially contribute to industrial development activities, how green hydrogen also contributes to sustainability in the form of emission reductions, what financing opportunities can be leveraged to ensure that green hydrogen projects can be realized, and also looking at how green hydrogen can potentially be traded, because hydrogen is an energy carrier and it has a tremendous trade potential. But what we do realize also is that in most strategies, the aspect of quality infrastructure is often overlooked, and hence we are strongly encouraging that countries try to also include this element within their vision for hydrogen development. So this is the second step. Now, with regards to Tunisia, essentially, when we looked at their green hydrogen strategy, essentially they have a clear goal of what they want to do, which is essentially by 2050, they want to export about 6 million tons of green hydrogen to Europe and use about 1.9 million tons of green hydrogen locally. So this is their end goal. And within the intermediate steps of 2025, 2030, and 2035, they have a clear plan to, first of all, increase the capacity of renewable energy in the short term. then in the medium term, by 2030, start to produce green hydrogen and also see how green hydrogen can potentially be used in their ammonia sector, because in their analysis, ammonia is an industry where they can have some quick gains. And then on the basis of that experience, they can expand their capacities to ensure that the hydrogen that they produce in the country can then be exported to Europe as per their strategic vision. So the Tunisia strategy is pretty well thought out. And what we did in our project is also try to raise the awareness of quality infrastructure considerations that should be developed at each of these phases. Now, the third step is essentially to undertake an assessment of the quality infrastructure ecosystem to see what the strengths and weaknesses are in a given national context. And there are various tools that are available to achieve this goal. But what we recommend in our roadmap is the utilization of a rapid diagnostic tool that was developed by PTB and the World Bank, which is a very quick and effective way for stakeholders who are interested in this topic to map out what their strengths and weaknesses are with their quality infrastructure ecosystem. And on the right hand side of the slide, you can see an example of what kind of assessment can be made with regards when using this tool. Some of the key attributes that are analyzed in this tool include the legal and institutional framework available for quality infrastructure, the administration capacities, looking at the service delivery and technical competence of professionals who are working in this space, and then also the external relations with other international bodies to support the development of QI in a national context. So we do recommend that this tool be leveraged to make this assessment for quality infrastructure. Now, we applied this tool in Tunisia, and I've just taken standardization as a representative pillar in this regard. And essentially what we found from our analysis with regards to standardization is that INORPI, which is the national standardization body in Tunisia, is a well-established institution. It has a strong track record of developing standards in the country. It's participating in various technical committees of international organizations such as ISO and IEC, and it's able to ensure that standards across various sectors are being used by different stakeholders that contribute to the country's national economic development. However, we do find that areas of improvement with regards to standardization include INORPI's participation in other technical committees that focus particularly on hydrogen. That's some work to be done, and also supporting the development of training programs that can help produce professionals who can help ensure that they're able to verify the veracity of the quality infrastructure services available in the country. So this tool was used in Tunisia. This is just a snapshot of what we found with regards to standardization, but there are also other findings with regards to the other pillars of QI, and it sort of provides a good analysis of where Tunisia stands with regards to their QI development. Yeah, so step number 4 is then basically to sort of predict the future needs and supply of quality infrastructure services. And I would say this is actually one of the unique aspects of this of our roadmap, where we've been able to develop we propose a pyramid system on what kind of services are required generally. And what kind of QI services are required for hydrogen. So what we're proposing is that before delving into the deep end, it's important to start foundationally to see what services are applicable generally across different sectors. That's level 1. Level 2 then would be to then identify QI services that are particularly relevant towards renewable energy, electrical energy, natural gas, given it's kind of an analog to hydrogen, and generally hydrogen as a whole, because there are various ways to produce hydrogen. So identify services that can be catered to that level. And then finally, at the highest level is then to identify quality infrastructure services that are dedicated towards green hydrogen. So this is a pyramid scheme that we have proposed, and more details on how to use it are contained within the roadmap, but this is the gist of the process. And essentially, this is an example of how it's used in the case of Tunisia, but essentially what we're trying to do is link the pyramid to certain checklists for each pillar. of QI. So in this case, we have the standardization pillar. Essentially, what we recommend is that in level 1, it's important for standardization that countries are engaged in participation at international organizations such as ISO and IC and participate in their committees that focus on green hydrogen or renewable energy. We've also identified standards and QI services that are foundational, generally speaking. So that's in level 1. In level 2, then we propose a further set of standards and other QoS services that should be adopted. And then we've also identified specific hydrogen-related technical committees that countries should be a part of. And then in level 3, again, we've identified further services that are specific to green hydrogen, and also identified certain technical committees that are relevant in that regard. So essentially, we've tried to provide a rationale on moving up the pyramid to ensure that all the areas of QI are covered as countries look to make their QI ecosystem robust. So this is what we've done with the checklist. And in the case of national context, we've highlighted in the case of Tunisia what services are available, which is highlighted in green, and what's missing right now currently in Tunisia is identified in yellow. So the country, Tunisia, knows where it has to act to ensure that it's complying with the proposed pyramid approach that we've included in our roadmap. And then finally, essentially, it's important then to take stock of the findings from the first 4 steps, and then develop action plans that can help address those gaps. And we propose looking at actions that focus on the legal and institutional framework, their administration requirements, service delivery, as well as collaboration with other organizations, but then also trying to link those to each specific pillar of QI, so that the whole ecosystem is covered. And again, in the case of Tunisia, given that it was our case study, just to keep, I won't go into detail on the slide, but just wanted to demonstrate that we've actually proposed some actions that Tunisia can undertake for each pillar of the QI ecosystem. And in the case of Tunisia, we try to link it with the strategic vision for hydrogen. So they had a timeline of 2050. So we have tried to recommend activities in the short term, medium term, and long term, so that the country can essentially have a robust QI ecosystem in place as they develop their green hydrogen activities moving forward, given its importance for Tunisia in the national context. So more information on this is also found in our report, and also the case study. And finally, just wanted to mention that there are quality infrastructure is essentially a very important aspect for green hydrogen development. Hopefully, in my brief remarks, I've been able to highlight why it's important and what needs to be done. And on this slide are just some key recommendations that we have sort of summarized based on our consultations with various QI experts globally. Some key ones that stand out, in my opinion, include aligning standards with ongoing market trends, investing in training personnel to ensure that they are available to undertake activities with regards to quality infrastructure moving forward, and then essentially strengthen the link between quality infrastructure and policy, because if quality infrastructure requirements are embedded in policy, then there's more incentive for market players and stakeholders to actually invest in those requirements moving forward. But these are just some recommendations that we have also included in our report for further thought and discussion moving forward. And I'd like to just conclude my presentation by noting that what I've presented today basically are findings from our 2 main outputs from this project that we implemented over the past 2 years. So we have a roadmap publication that's available on our website. The QR code that you see on the screen can be used to, again, access that report and hopefully get more in-depth insights on these steps that I've presented very briefly. But on the landing page of the where the report is hosted, you also have access to the Tunisia case study where we've applied this roadmap in the case in a given national context, so you can gain insights on how these approaches apply in a practical sense. And then I've also, as I mentioned in my pyramid scheme, we've also developed a database which sort of highlights some of the key important QI services that are necessary for green hydrogen. We've classified it also by level based on the pyramid approach, so that it's easy to sort of understand which QI services are foundational and which QI services are are necessary for green hydrogen particularly. And I'd also like to acknowledge that we've tried to we have also taken input and inspiration from another project that was implemented by DIN and together with other German partners, where they did some very detailed analysis on the important standards that are important for quality for green hydrogen. So we tried to merge our own findings with their findings and provide a comprehensive database for your further perusal. So with that, thank you for your quality attention. We'd also like to thank the BMZ and PTB for the support in this project, and I'm happy to answer any questions that the audience may have on this topic. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Jaydev, for the insightful presentation, and I think you covered a lot of ground. To our audience, we encourage you to take advantage of the Q&A feature to ask any questions that you might have. I'll start with a question that we have already received so far. Jaydev, so one of the attendees asked that what countries can do to promote QI for green hydrogen in the countries, but maybe let me rephrase it a little bit. How can countries use the work that IRENA has done, the work that you have shared
Yeah.
on their own?
Thanks a lot. So the whole intention of this roadmap is to provide a starting point on how to understand essentially what quality infrastructure is generally, because a lot, at least in our discussions with the many experts, the notion of quality infrastructure is sometimes misunderstood. So we try to first clarify that in our publication. And the second point is that we've tried to apply or we've tried to provide a very step-by-step methodology on how quality infrastructure services can be integrated in particular national context. So the roadmap approach that we've shown, or that I've presented very briefly, is essentially a very generic one. So essentially, we've tried to make it as high level as possible, so that any country or representative from any country can get an idea as to what needs to be done to ensure that quality infrastructure is robustly, let's say, featured in hydrogen development plans. And then the purpose of the Tunisia case study essentially is to demonstrate how this roadmap approach was applied in a particular national context. I'd just like to clarify that in the case of Tunisia, some steps are already done in their case. So for example, they are already mapped out their requirements for green hydrogen. They had already a strategy in place. So where we sort of helped them is sort of identify what quality infrastructure services they would need to develop in tandem to their plans. So hopefully that provides a bit of well, clarity on how to use this roadmap and how it can inform development plans for any other countries moving forward.
Great. Thank you, Jaydev. Maybe another question that we have received. What kind of challenges do you envision for countries as they would like to move up the pyramid to more hydrogen-specific QI ecosystem?
Yeah, I mean, there are many challenges that countries do, let's say, experience when trying to develop quality infrastructure. Again, I'll stress the point that the first step I would say to address, the first challenge is to sort of understand what QI is, because some people think of quality infrastructure as actually physical infrastructure, but that's not really the case. It's actually much more, it's beyond that. I mean, it's more like a invisible, not invisible, but it's sort of like in the background of the physical infrastructure to ensure that it's operating properly. The second barrier, I would say, is how do you engage with the QI ecosystem? Because some people are not sure how do they start their journey in this place, how do they undertake activities in this area. My recommendation would obviously be to look at the international organizations that are in place, because they are the foundations of this QI ecosystem. So the International Standards Organization, the International Electrotechnical Commission, you have the BIPM, which is the International Organization for Metrology. You have ILAC for accreditation. So each pillar of QI has an international, let's say, body that oversees that particular domain. I think it would be very important for any country to engage with those institutions to understand how those services can be applied in their own national context. And then finally, is essentially providing resources, financial resources, and skill development in this area, because it can be a very technical topic to delve into. So it's important also for that, especially emerging and developing economies, to secure the financing and required competence programs to help develop the QI ecosystem in their country. So yeah, those are some of the key challenges.
Thanks, Jaydev. To your list of international organizations, I would also like to add IRENA, because I think the quality infrastructure work that the team has done is also quite extensive, like the one that you showed today, like the one that you presented today. Okay, I think our time for today is up, unfortunately. I would like to thank Jaydev for his time and for sharing the insights on the latest work. And I would also like to thank the audience for their attention and for the questions. I hope you learned something new. The recording and slides will be posted on the IRENA events webpage for those who missed any part of the webinar or would like to revisit it. This would be done in a few days. I would like to wish you a great rest of the day, and we hope to see you soon in the coming webinars. Thank you.